Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
Hello and good morning, and welcome to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. I'm your co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine, here with your host, Mr. Lee Martin, and our guest today from Mississippi, Miss Dr. LaShawna Fant. So LaShawna, how are you doing today?
It's a great day, and it's an honor to be on the show today.
Lee.
Yes,
I know we're getting ready to talk about NFB Newsline, aren't we?
Yeah, we most certainly are. And I tell you, it's going to be a great show today because we're all the way down in Mississippi with Dr. LaShawna Fant. And Doctor, I tell you, it's going to be a pleasure, as it always is, to share in conversation with you as we talk about the National Federation of the Blind and the service of the National Federation of the Blind, NFB Newsline. And here in Indiana, we just happen to have a great show for our listeners and viewing audience throughout the state of Indiana. And we just want to say to you once again, thank you for what you do, and we'll learn more about what you do and you. So with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, tell us a little bit about how does that service impact you or in your life?
It has been a great addition to my life. I read NFB Newsline, and I check the TV listings. I read various newspapers. I check the job listings, and I also read blindness-based or blindness-related publications. And so it has been wonderful for me because I love reading and I enjoy staying up to date with what's going on in the world.
And you do a lot of research too. And a National Federation of the Blind has a search feature where you can basically search up almost anything you need to search. And we have found this to be a great tool for, just across the board with students, adults, youth, seniors, veterans. It is just a great service. And Florence, you want to talk a little bit about some of the tools or devices that you can access this service with?
Sure. One of my favorites, Lee, is I download the NFB Newsline app. I use it on my iPhone. And so it's very easy to access the service that way. There's also the A-Lady, I'm going to say her name because mine is unplugged. That would be Alexa. And there's also the Victor Reader Stream, the landline phone, which a lot of people still use, the Android phone as well, and the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library is also a tool that a lot of people use to access this free audio information service. And I love using this service, and there is something very helpful that I use, and that is the KNFB Reader Basic. And this gives me the opportunity to read independently my documents, my mail. Basically, it allows me to shoot a picture of it and it reads it directly to me. So again, this service is awesome, and I love the access to this free audio information service.
Well, I tell you, there's something there for each and every one, so including our magazines. We have over 100 magazines. And for those of you that continue to send in your requests for additional magazines, just hold on. We're getting to them the best way that we can and making sure that they're accessible so that you can use it and the servers can navigate through it properly. So we're going to take us a short pause, and we're going to come back and speak with Dr. LaShawna Fant all the way from Mississippi. Stay tuned.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana. And our guest today, as mentioned earlier, is Miss Dr. LaShawna Fant from Houston, Mississippi. And LaShawna, tell us a little bit about you.
I was born and raised in Houston, Mississippi, which is in Northeast Mississippi, but I reside in Jackson, Mississippi, where I have been a teacher of the visually impaired for the past 16 years. I'm the oldest of 3 children, and I absolutely love sports, such as basketball and volleyball and being in nature.
They have a basketball team in Houston, Mississippi.
We're the home of the Hilltoppers, sir.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your childhood. With your eye condition, and talk to us a little bit about that. Share that with our listening and viewing audience, if you feel like.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's fine. During my senior year of high school is when I experienced vision loss. I experienced damage to my optic nerve, and so as a senior in high school, I graduated as a legally blind female because I lost my vision in April, and we graduated in May. It was a bore to me because one of the highlights of graduating from Houston High School was to get to walk across the football field. And I had to walk across the field with a human guide or a sighted guide. So it was brand new to me. So I did not lose my vision until I was 18 years old and about to graduate high school.
So how did that impact you? And as a graduating, that's a monumental part of our livelihood as a youth. How did that impact you at that point in time?
At that time, I was very embarrassed and ashamed because I couldn't see my friends' faces, and I couldn't drive anymore because I had my own car, and I had a couple of jobs and enjoyed going to sporting events. So all that stopped. And at that time, as an 18-year-old, it put me in a hole and I was depressed. But for some reason, I could still see the sun shining.
Dr. Fant, now this transition into blindness, your family, how'd your family react to your transition into blindness?
I was raised by a single parent, my mom, and being she worked a lot, I was the person who helped my hyperactive sister and brother who were very highly involved in extracurricular activities. I was the driver. I made sure they were fed, their clothes were washed and ironed for the next day, that I helped with homework, just whatever was needed. So it impacted my family. It was like the rug was drug from up under them. It's the best way I can say it. It turned their lives upside down.
Okay, and you mentioned that, after you lost your sight, you went through a period of depression and embarrassment. And I think that, being a blind individual, I can relate to that, LaShawna. And at what point or when did you decide to use a cane, or were you more comfortable using a service animal? What was your preference?
A cane, a white cane has always been my preference. After going through months and months of social isolation, after going to my ophthalmologist in Memphis, Tennessee, he recommended me going to a training center, and I attended Addie McBride Rehabilitation Training Center for the Blind in Jackson, Mississippi. And once I started seeing that I could live and thrive while being blind, I was okay. I just had to start taking steps to get back in society, and I had to pick back up my goals and dreams and develop a support system for getting all of those things accomplished. My family has always been on my side through it all, but I'm a cane user.
So with that, this, the transition and it took me a while to learn how to just accept the cane. Did it take you a minute to just, use the cane and just accept the thing? I'm saying, well, I don't want to carry a cane. It brings attention. You know what we go through sometimes. How did that impact you?
Well, it brings to mind a couple points. My family always asked me to put up the cane because they had not adjusted to that part of me being blind. But one situation comes to mind. After I lost my vision my senior year of high school, I went for a year of training before I started college. So I didn't start with all of my friends and classmates. So the situation that comes to mind is when I was being oriented to the community college that I attended. One of my classmates, she saw me with the O&M instructor, and I was so embarrassed because I didn't know who could see me, and it was just quite a situation. But the first thing she said was, "You go, girl." And when I heard her say that, it was just like I was instantly energized. And soon after, I came to the mindset that my life has to go on, and even if I have to walk with a cane, I'm going to lift my head, and it's going to be okay because I'm just thankful to be alive.
Well, that is so interesting. So we're going to come back and talk a little bit more. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. And for those of you heard her say O&M instructor, that's orientation and mobility instructor. So we're going to come back and talk a little bit more with the great Dr. LaShawna Fant.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduce the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
With my failing eyesight, I'm not able to read regular newspapers, and I'm not able to keep up with obituaries.
I've been a homemaker all of my life, but since my vision has failed, I wish I could read my favorite magazines.
Have you heard of the NFB Newsline?
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. And we're speaking today with Dr. LaShawna Fant. And LaShawna, you mentioned earlier in the show that when you decided to pick up your cane and walk with your head held high, you said that someone looked at you and said, "You go, girl."
Mm-hmm.
You know, now was this after your orientation of mobility training before you went back to college, or was this in between? Because it sounds like you left high school, you graduated from high school, and after losing your sight, it sounds like you went into your training. And then perhaps after that, went to your college?
That's correct. That's correct. Go ahead, Ms. Florence.
No.
Well, you go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Okay, sure. So after high school, I went for a year of training. Then I started college in Fulton, Mississippi at Itawamba Community College. While there, it was quite a journey. I was newly blind, so I was still learning. I started traveling to campus by myself. What helped me is that I knew that going back home, there was nothing to do but work in a furniture factory or on a hog farm. And so I had to go to school. And so I always enjoyed math and English. So I had perfected it, doing it in my mind. So while a student at that community college, I tutored in geometry and college algebra and English, but I had not learned perfected Braille, or I was not fluent in Braille or on the computer. So all I had, Lee and Florence, was a tape recorder, probably the first year, and a scribe. But I had to rock it, because if I was going to make it in life and not sit at home, I had to take what I had, which was that recorder, and I had to do what I had to do to learn. So that's pretty much what I did my first 2 years of getting my associate's degree and utilizing my cane and utilizing that tape recorder to learn. And I ended up graduating with special honor. I think the main reason was because of my support and because of my drive. And God never left me. So I did what I had to do to get what I had to get.
Well, I'll tell you what, that if having to go back to a furniture shop and a hog farm, I think I'd have been using that recorder and everything else like that too.
Absolutely.
So what other, what kind of, how were you accepted by your, the university there, as far as your professors and your training? Because there's other individuals that may be out there that's just going through the same reality that you went through. So what would you recommend to those individuals? And did you have to teach the people, the instructors there, on how blindness was and how you could make it through?
I had to teach them how I needed things to go, or what was best for me. My professors were very, very nice, and they were very willing to do whatever was needed to help me be successful. They felt like I was a genius. And the reason I feel was because they felt like I was exceptionally intelligent, but all my life I've enjoyed learning. And so when I would take my books and I would get the scribe or the reader to, the scribe and the reader, who was the same person, I would get them to read ahead because I wanted to know what was going on. So sometimes in class, they would ask questions. I wouldn't answer because I wanted to get everybody else give everyone else an opportunity to answer, and they wouldn't answer. So I would come with the answer. And they just thought it was just the most fascinating thing. But I've just always been a lifelong learner. But I did have to educate them, but it was a wonderful experience that I would never forget.
So you excelled more so in your mathematics, would you say?
Anything mathematically based and reading in English, yes.
Well, and you can tell it throughout your conversation and throughout just in general your personality. It always it just leaks through. It just doesn't. I mean, it's just there, like pal, you're there, and
It illuminates, doesn't it, Lee?
yes, it does. So there you go.
So kind. Thank you.
And I tell you what, with college and graduating from college, and you went ahead and got your master's. You want to tell us a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. After getting my associate's degree, I went to Mississippi State University, and I attained a bachelor and master's degree in the education field. The bachelor's was in elementary ed, and then a school counseling degree was my master's degree. After that, I always had a dream to get my doctoral degree, and I received that in 2018. But I do want to pause right here to say, I grew up in communities that were very oppressive. A lot of my classmates and friends and family members, they died early or were sent to prison as teenagers. And so I just always have wanted to get the best out of life that I could. And to any teenager or student that's listening, remember that blindness is just a characteristic that defines you. And you may not get a doctoral degree, but do what your dream, whatever your goals are, to fulfill your dreams. That was part of my dream, to get a doctoral degree. And that's what I have done. And right now I'm getting back in college for further education, but that's just been part of my story.
So with that, I mean, that is so impressive once again, and to have that drive, and coming from a community, that has been deprived and oppressed. So congratulations on that as well. During your journey here, you became a part of another organization. You want to share what organization that is?
I became a member of National Federation of the Blind in November of 2011.
So tell us a little bit about what drew you to the National Federation of the Blind, and what is the National Federation of the Blind to you?
National Federation of the Blind has been an organization that has helped me to learn about various resources for the blind. It has even more so helped me to lift my head, because I've been able to share the experiences of many who have lived fulfilled lives and are living their best lives now. So National Federation of the Blind, it has been that lifeline that has helped me to help others through the resources that they have provided.
Hey, LaShawna.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about your employment. What's going on with you now?
Sure. For the last 16 years, I have been teaching blind students there in Jackson, Mississippi, at Mississippi School for the Blind. We educate students from all across the state of Mississippi. As a teacher there, I have taught kindergarten through 12th grade. And I also want to add that they are some of my constant motivations. Right now, I am about to publish a book as of July 27th. It will have its digital release. One reason that I am publishing this book is because I love literacy, and I love to show kids about reading and writing and how fun it can be. So that is what's going on in my life right now, as far as my profession and one of my present ambitions.
Okay, so what's the name of the book? You got the title yet?
Yes, it will be available on my website, lfantbooks.com, on July 27th, and it's my first children's book, and it's titled The Strange Animal Farm.
Strange Animal Farm. Okay, well, we're going to take a short pause and come back with our conclusion.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. And we've had a very good conversation with Dr. LaShawna Fant all the way from Mississippi, Houston, Mississippi, now in Jackson, Mississippi, doing great things for our communities. And we want to thank you, Dr. Fant, for coming on to our show. And as I indicated earlier, you cannot spell the word fantastic without F-A-N-T. So you want to leave us with a closing remark?
Absolutely. Whether you are a student or an adult, remember that blindness is just a characteristic. It does not define you. Life can be very wonderful. Leave a legacy that's very rich and that shows you contributing to society. It has been my honor to be on this show and represent my state of Mississippi. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and continue to live the life you want.
And we'll see you all next week. And thank you so very much, Dr. Fant. God bless you, and God bless our listening and viewing audience.
It's been my honor. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.